Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and the first order of business is to adopt the agenda. Y'all all have had time to look over it. So, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Kagan makes a motion, Nicole seconds, all in favor? Okay. Next item on the agenda would be the minutes of the last meeting, or meetings, the special meeting. The last regular meeting, and then of course the call meeting that we had also.
I just had a couple of questions.
Any questions or corrections or?
Was Daniel, the notice was sent to Lillian Jameson to clean up her property?
Well, yes and no. The reason that, yes, the owner of it does know that they are under the responsibility to clean it up. The issue is that Lillian Jameson sold it. So.
And what is the timeline for the new owner to clean the property?
I just asked them, please. I didn't give them a timeline.
According to that course review, it's still 30 days to send them notice.
So are they aware of that? Did you
Oh.
make them aware of they've got 30 days now that you've sent the notice to the correct property owner?
I didn't send the notice. I just told them to clean it up.
Could we make that official so they have the clock start?
Please.
Sure. Yeah.
Do we need a motion for that?
I don't know.
But that's not-
But we have the minutes first, and then we could have a motion to that effect, so we really may not need a motion.
So yeah, please send that official notice to them so we can get the clock. The other thing, the quitclaim deed from Bobby Adams, is that good?
I've got it done, but that's just to submit to them to sign. Yeah.
Any other items of correction? Okay, we have a motion to adopt the minutes. Nicole? Second? Kagan? All in favor? Okay, everyone received a copy of the documents for claims approval. Have a chance to look over those. Any questions on those?
I had the category of oil, grease, and something was assigned to a whole bunch of different things. One was the police academy. Somebody went to the police academy and it was under that accounting number.
They were reimbursed. Yes, Alex.
It was the $3,600 fee.
That was a training where they had to pay the academy for the training.
No, it was chief.
It's not the number. It was just that the accounting, what it was put under, and there was also some soil delivered, I think, to the landfill that was also under oil, grease, and fuel.
Just a lot of things
Just
combined in
kidding.
the same category.
And I was very happy to see we bought pedestrian signs.
And what's put up?
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
up in front of the, up front of the depot.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions about our paying our bills?
I had one question. Where is it? David Floyd, he's got 2 phones?
Beginning and end of the month. I saw that too.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
30 days
okay.
apart.
And then, is there anything that was part of paying for this last special election that's not in this docket?
Shouldn't be. I think
No, I
everything should
think-
be
I
on there.
think
all the
everything
poll
was in
workers
there.
and-
So
Program.
this last election cost 3809.32.
It could
Am I
be,
right?
yes, ma'am.
I didn't find myself. Okay, and I don't know what that dog is doing.
It's a tail.
Is it a tail? Okay, it's the tail.
She likes Vicky.
Do we drive to Office Depot and pick things up, or we?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay, is it
That
something
just
that's
a
mailed
phone
to
number.
us?
It is.
So, but we use Varner for lots of things, and then we had to buy 2 boxes of number 10 envelopes and some plastic envelopes from Office Depot.
So that's more reasonable.
I called them today and asked them how much it cost, and it was like was a big difference. But anyway, I just was curious about that. It was cheaper here instead of having to
Okay.
work at, get free shipping or?
Oh, yes.
All right, good.
I'm gonna get discounts
Yeah.
too.
That's good, okay.
Any
On
other?
what's in the store.
All right, need a motion to accept the documents from the president. Chairman, have a second? Nicole, all in favor? Okay, everybody. Okay, Mickey?
We're moving up here now.
Yeah, that's right,
Okay,
please.
okay. I've got three things for y'all tonight. Main Street's working with the American Institute of Architects, the Mississippi chapter, and we've got a program where we're going to involve high school students, architects, and building professionals in Main Street. And it's going to be kind of a three-step process, and I've got some dates for you if you want to make note of it. February 24th, working with Tom Howarth Architects out of Oxford, and Vanu Talachan, who's also an architect. We're going to have a design charrette from 1 to 5 in the Inmore Valley. Location to be announced. We don't know it yet. April 7th, we're going to have it's called a design reveal party, and also we're going to have some architectural drawings and a presentation. April 7th, it'll be 6 to 8 at Beaux-Arts. And then May 26th, we will have a build day with the students and the architects. So that's coming up. The next thing is Jeannie Waller-Zirin, who is the state coordinating director for Mississippi Main Street, attended our board meeting last night and talked to the board. And she basically went over and told us what's going on with Mississippi Main Street, how we're doing. She didn't give us any bad news. We're kind of falling within the parameters and so forth. They're happy with us. She did tell us that we have once again been accredited as a national Main Street town. We've met the accreditation standards. And then she gave us a list of things in terms of training for our board. We've got a number of new people on the board, and the ones that I would point out I think that would be most beneficial, these are dates that actually anybody could go to, is April 26th to 27th. Department of Archives and History is doing what's called Preservation Boot Camp. And I've been to that, and if you're fixing up an old building, you want to go to this training. It will save you a lot of pain and agony, a lot of money. And then May 16th to 18th in Louisville, Mississippi, the Stennis Center and Mississippi State University are putting on something called Your Town, and it's a very interactive design and economic development program. And people such as Tyler Hill and Amy McMinn have gone to that before, and Kagan's gone to that, I've gone to that, and it's a pretty good thing. So we're going to do that again. The last thing I've got for you is that we're going to have a block party at some time in April for the 200 block of North Main, and details to be announced, but everybody wants to have something in the springtime where we have a little fun. So that's the three things. And if you don't mind, I've got 2 house guests I'm going to bug off tonight.
Okay.
So anyway, and once again, I'd like to thank the board for your support for Main Street.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a guest with us, Mr. Mark Reed, who has a proposal on a water and sewer truck that David was talking about. So if you want to come forward.
I'd like to say first, this is Mark Reed. He sold us our existing sewer truck, our vacuum trailer, sewer camera. We've done a lot of business with this guy for a long time. He's a good guy. He's got different ways of purchasing a vehicle and specs on the truck, and I thought he could explain it to y'all better than I can. So.
My name is Mark Red. I'm the ICM out of Memphis, or Olive Branch is where our office is located. And I've been doing this type of business for 29 years. And David's sewer truck is just about had its useful life used up. And I think he has a city that may be interested in purchasing it, so you may have a chance to move it if you do proceed with a new truck. He asked me to stop by, and right now everybody is tight on money, and there's some new ways, or they've been around for a while, but called municipal leasing. I don't know if y'all do any municipal leasing, but a municipal lease is a tax exempt lease. So I use Bancorp South. They have the best rates I've found, and in the proposal there's a proposal to you guys from Bancorp South for the quote that I worked up. And the rates, if you look at the rates, start at 3.19 to 3.39. It's hard to find that cheap of money anywhere, for like a 72 month note. And a municipal lease, the cool thing about it is it's a tax exempt lease to the lender. They don't have to pay taxes on the interest that they make, so they lower the interest rates, and that's why it is so low. It also has an appropriations clause in it, so if for some reason the city can't afford to make the payments or appropriate the funds 1 year, then you can return the equipment and you're out of the lease. You're not in default. It's just over. Okay. And also there's no prepayment penalty. So if you do have some extra money or wanted to pay ahead, if you got to, you can do that, and it just saves you interest as far as that goes. It's a really nice way, and we've been doing a lot of these with people that just money's just tight right now. And also, excuse me, there's a I don't know if you're aware with the new bidding procedures that the state legislature put into effect the first of the year. You may have more details than I have on it, but it's going to have to be a reverse auction type situation, sort of like eBay. And the ones that we've had, that we've done in the past or been involved with, it's been not a good thing, because it takes largely takes the control out of the city's hands. They, once it's into the entity's hands that doing the program or the bid, then it's just kind of just goes from there. You don't have any input on that. And also there's hidden fees that they don't tell you about, because there's a 4% fee for the winning bidder has to pay 4% of the total bid to that. So that's who ends up paying that? The city does. So in this situation, that would be about $8,250 for this dollar figure that I've showed you on this quote. And what an alternative to doing that is what is called NJPA. This stands for National Joint Powers Alliance. They've been around for many years. They're based in Minneapolis. And what they do is they send out RFPs all over the country for various products, various vendors, and all different types. It could be garbage trucks, dump trucks, backhoes, sewer equipment. There's a list this long. And they take quotes on that. So it's basically a national contract that they have, and the successful bidders that get in that are awarded a contract for 4 years. Okay, and we must stick to those prices, and on top of that bid price, we have to give at least a 10% discount on top of that, just to assure that the cities or whoever is getting a fair shake. On this particular one, we gave 15%, just to try to help. Okay, I think the mayor told me that y'all's your city bid laws require you to take bids on everything, and that's for you guys to work out. But it's just an avenue that I wanted to bring to you that could be used not just for my equipment, for anything down the road that's on their program.
So, question, if we get multiple bids, we can pick whichever bid we like to go with and then figure out financing after
Okay.
that process?
Yes, yeah, it doesn't have to do anything, that's correct. That's just an avenue that I wanted to bring to you, in case you do decide to do something, whether it's with me or someone else. And I put some information in there about, explains of municipal leasing and so forth, and even NJPA. And as far as the financing goes with Bancorp South, they deal directly with you. All I'm doing is introducing you two together. And y'all go from there. Your city clerk will give them the documents they need, and once we deliver the equipment, then they'll fund it and everything's good.
Any other questions for him tonight? I know we're not gonna act on this right now, but
I think my question would be for David. Can you tell us what could you do with this $200,000 machine?
Maintain and upkeep our sewer line. That's filled with sand, grease, roots, you name it.
Does this give you a longer reach or higher pressure?
Higher pressure, more gallons per minute, so it packs more of a punch in our truck that we have. It's, like Mark says, it's about out of date.
And it doesn't have a clutch.
And an automatic
That's an
transmission.
automatic truck, so
We've
it should
equipped it with
last
a Cummins
longer.
engine and an automatic
As far as
transmission,
that's
so
concerned.
anybody should be able to drive it. Maybe.
Thank you so much.
No
Thanks for
problem.
coming.
If I can help, just let me know.
David, if you would come up.
I've got spreadsheets here for the rate proposal. It's got it's got the rates of it's got your water rates for Water Valley. It's got the rates of Grenada, and Oxford. It's got your average customer use, the average revenue, proposed rates, what your proposed rates would bring, water and sewer proposed work rates, and the totals down there.
So I've had this, because I ran into David earlier. So what it amounts to is, for the average residential user in Water Valley, it's a 37-cent per month increase. What it amounts to for on the industrial side is it's pretty nominal, except for the poultry plant, who is by far our largest. And it is about a 40% increase on their water bill, from around $9,000 a month to the $12,400. However, because I like spreadsheets, and because David did this research, so you can look at the equivalent bill. The proposal would bring the poultry plant up to $12,400 a month for the use of, how many gallons is that? No, it's like 13 million gallons. I can't remember the use of.
Gallons.
That's all industries, right?
Yeah.
That's
But
not just,
if you look at those three numbers, if the poultry plant were to relocate to Grenada, Batesville, or Oxford, under those towns' water rates, they would be paying $66,000, $60,000, or $68,000 for the amount of water that they use in Water Valley,
Versus 12,000.
versus $12,000. So if we adopted this increase, they would still be saving 80% relative to our neighboring communities, which seems like a deal.
Okay, we had a meeting today with DEQ, not DEQ, I'm sorry.
they used to
Poultry
be
Plant.
with them,
They are doing a lot to upgrade their plant up there and spending a lot of money to do all this, okay? And we found that a rate increase on the poultry plant would probably need to be postponed right now, or maybe just a little bit. We'd have to talk to them again to see what they would go for, on one hand. Now, this is something else we probably need to bring up at a later date, probably.
So who was in that meeting? Was
Who
it
was
the
in the meeting?
CEO?
No, two engineers that used to work for MDEQ that now are working with the poultry plant to try to upgrade them.
And-
Representing the CEO of the poultry plant.
Oh,
And the local manager, that's the new
Right, the
manager?
local manager.
They have a new manager, was here. The figure they threw out that they were willing to spend to upgrade, to try to help us on our problem, was up to $1 million. But they said, I mean, just cut to the chase, if we bump it right there, they're gonna close. I
and
mean,
what timeline are they looking
That's-
at improving their property?
as was one of the first questions I asked them today, they're waiting on a response also, like we are, from MDEQ or something.
So they're talking about $1 million investment, but $3,500 a month would ruin their
Would
business.
kick them off.
Well, I mean, that's,
If their business is not able to operate at a 80% discount from what it would cost to operate anywhere else in the state,
well, they're not gonna relocate, you know, anywhere else. In the state, I don't think they would, but
Their
but
license
they
is
would
shut down.
close. And they have 165 employees right now. And he said,
they're working that close to their margins.
They
So
are.
I did some research on the company. They have two operations. One is in Indiana, one is here. They have run afoul of their,
No pun intended.
it's actually closed right now.
so they've closed again, the Indiana plant?
It is shut down right now was the term they used, not closed, but it is shut down at this time.
Because of oversight? I'll find out. But it's been shut down several times because of
Yeah.
issues with.
They've
the
had
Indiana
issues
plant.
also.
So we're gonna give them time to make these upgrades and then it's gonna be revisited again?
Yes, if they do it in a timely manner. Now, if they don't do it in a timely manner, we're gonna have to address it, period.
I
So
still
what's
don't,
the timeframe?
I like the fact that they're talking about investing in their failing infrastructure, but what other industry would be given such a discount and subsidization from the community to operate? If it's not profitable,
We're not actually subsidizing right now. I mean, because of the cost of the chemicals that we give is for also our part, our sale, not just their sale.
Well, what tax exemptions?
Hmm?
Aren't they haven't we given them tax exemptions?
I don't think we
They had
give
about a year.
that, yeah, on some new equipment and, you know,
Yeah.
like
it's
we
been a
do.
while since they invested. So
Yeah.
they didn't get it.
Okay.
And if they upgrade equipment, you know,
But we've given them tax exemptions in the past.
Like we have
and-
all
and
the
are
industrials.
currently.
yeah, like all
About a year
industrial.
left on it.
Yeah, so it's 9 years.
It might even be running out next year.
You can invest $1 million.
That,
When is the next meeting?
I've got both those guys, the phone number, and we're gonna stay in contact. David is staying in contact with the plant manager. He told them of some problems, some issues. He promised he would address that on a daily basis.
so today, with our water rates at the rate that they're at, are we saving any amount to deal with upgrading water tanks? We just had a gimme when we received a grant to paint one for $250,000. Does our current rate allow for any actual infrastructure cost, or are we just paying our day-to-day bills? And if something needs to be invested, like a new well, we're,
That's the reason for the residential, commercial, and the rural water
So that helps.
We transfer $1,500 a month into the construction fund.
Yeah, from the water.
I mean, that's not much, but I mean, that does happen.
So that, how much does a new well cost?
Oh, it's up there.
It's, I think the ballpark was $1 million.
Yeah, probably.
So are we making that
That's probably a
$1,500 to
treatment plant,
transfer
not
in?
just a well.
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably a treatment plant, tank and everything.
So
I mean, it's never any
it's a
kind of
little bit, that's
construction.
just what's
It's-
over
that's our
breaking
little-
even.
Yeah, well, we're more than breaking even.
That's a little cushion we've had.
Okay.
there
That's-
for a long time.
So my concern is that we can pay our bills day to day, but our water treatment function is a big, complicated function with some expensive parts.
Yes.
Those parts wear out over time. And having enough to pay our day-to-day bills based on our current rates does not say that in 30 years, when that's the average lifespan of a well, when we start having to replace things, we're not charging enough to pay for our whole system.
And we have been surviving on grants, as we know, and, which
So-
most small communities do.
The idea that $3,500 a month would close a plant that has $1 million to invest in infrastructure seems like a negotiations tactic which we should push through.
I just don't see us raising it right now until we give them, time to come back with a definite timeline. I mean, I'm not against raising them. I am against raising them this amount at one time, maybe. And, maybe go back to the table with them. And
If we had a 5-year plan where it was 10% a year instead of
Something,
40%.
because,
I
that's
think we might
40%.
revisit with the poultry plan and come up with, like you say, over the next 5 years. And get us up to where we can work with them and everything. We're trying to work together right now to resolve our DEQ issues. So kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and all that, so.
We're doing that for a while.
Yes, we've been doing that for a while now.
I'd like to know that those conversations are happening now, because we're not talking about a 5-year plan to bring them up to market rates. We're talking about bringing them up to 20% of market rates.
I never have liked us comparing ourselves to the other cities, and I know that we have to, but,
There are things cost what they cost, and these rates don't go lower when you go to other parts of Mississippi. They go higher.
Well, in our water training that I went to, that 8-hour course, every other community had it set up to where your rate increased in increments over time everywhere. And they gave us all these examples about how you've got, it's just like the cost of living goes up every year. They have it, it's already built in. And so people know what to expect, it's not a surprise, and they know, hey, every year or every 18 months, it's gonna go up a little bit more and a little bit more, and because it's gonna cover the cost of not only operations, but what the future brings, and, what we have to repair equipment and replace things. So this is not unheard of, and it's pretty much a standard operation in other communities, even as small as ours. So I don't think that we would have a lot of pushback from our citizens, because they have relatives who live other places, and that's just the way it's built in, so we don't have a crumbling infrastructure again in 20 years.
So right now, our residential rates are about 50% of these 3 communities. I think we're 40% of Oxford and about 50% of the other communities, which, if that's our benchmark, that Water Valley is half as expensive to get water in as other places. Our industrial is 17% right now of what our neighbors are. So I'd like to see the industrial come up. Not all the way, but it's not paying for what it costs to run a water department. But if we're in the middle of a DEQ
we are.
So I'd like to know that we're talking to them about this over, we need a plan to bring them up. And if they're shell shock and they're about to make a big investment, then maybe not now, but I'd like to know that we are going to get them up to this rate.
Yeah. They're in the middle of negotiating permits also with DEQ, which would help us on our end also. And like I said, both of these guys worked for them, so they have contacts with them. So, you know, a little time maybe. And I'm not saying 6 months, you know, I'm saying, you know, a short period of time till we start seeing some results.
Can we have this on the agenda again for next month?
Oh, yeah,
And see what,
no doubt.
because this, I think DEQ is probably, they've been sitting on this for a while as well.
Yes, and as you know with us too.
You're talking about next month or in 2 weeks?
So, let's go with Mark.
I'd say if they're pulling permits.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, right.
And Dave and I both will stay in contact, and if we need to come back in the meantime for something.
So today, in today's meeting, was there another meeting scheduled, a follow-up meeting at that time? or-
Not at that time, just phone calls to back and forth, there to let us know as soon as anything happens on their end. And David has talked with them, and they're familiar with him, and he's familiar with them, so.
So do we want to break this into a residential versus a commercial, or do we want to hold off and do it all at once?
Well, we've got things to buy, so we just need to kind of, I mean, I've got a lot of down pumps and stuff that it's going to get costly.
Yep.
So we kind of need to look at this and come to some kind of determination on it, because we're going to have to buy some stuff regardless.
I agree, I mean, I don't want to put an extra cost on anybody, but our residential is low, I mean. And even though David said he's going to charge more, that's all right too.
Just put a meter right on the
Yes,
side.
yes,
So is your proposal for is it 37 cents per month, or is it the same type of overtime, get us back up to something?
Right, over the next 5 years. Add that, what was it, it was $1.95 to $2.10. Just the flow rates is all we're changing. So like I say, the regular usage customers will pay basically about the same bill. And the ones that, you know, are filling their swimming pools or using 20, 30,000 gallons, they're gonna pay more because of the flow rate.
So we're talking about a 15-cent raise per 1,000 gallons above 2,000?
Right.
Okay, so
After 2,000.
everybody gets 2,000 gallons for 1040. That's not changing.
Right,
We're talking about for every additional 1,000 gallons, you pay 15 cents more.
right. The first year.
If you have a pool, I think you have 15 cents. Is that unfair? I don't have a pool. I'd make a motion then that we go forward with that 15-cent increase over the next. Can I change that?
Well, it'll be the water and the sewer rates
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
the water and sewer goes
The
up.
sewer,
Done the break.
the sewer is that's a 24-cent raise per 1,000.
That's right. 24 cents on the sewer per month, per 1,000 gallons.
Per 1,000 gallons. So I'll make the motion that we adopt this increase. I'd like to say over 3 years. That's within our terms? And it can be revisited at the next board.
To increase it.
What was your
And-
proposal over time?
Increase it this much every year
Every year, or how many?
for the first 3 years, for
For-
3 years
for
at
3
least,
years.
and then,
You
like
want
he
to
says,
finalize it.
revisit it after that and see
Okay.
where we're at.
Yeah.
So is that's your motion?
So I would make that motion on the residential side, we adopt this increase for 3 years
On the water and sewer.
on the water and the sewer.
At least until we're somewhere close around these surrounding, you know, towns.
I would leave it to the next board to decide if they continue with that policy.
All
They
right.
can change, even if we said it was for the next 100 years,
They could change it next year. Yeah, I mean, we could change it next year if you chose to.
Yeah, we can change it.
And who knows, we may have to come back in. amend it, you know.
Yeah, we'll see
Okay.
how it goes.
We have a motion, we have a second. All right, Nicole seconds. All in favor? And that's unanimous.
I'm gonna look over the minutia of the statutes to see if there's anything that we need to do. I'm not aware of anything off the top of my head, but I'll have an answer tomorrow by lunch.
And then we'll revisit the industrial
Do we
improvement.
we wouldn't have to advertise that, would we?
I'm gonna check.
Okay.
In the back of my mind, I think there's some little
A
caveat.
notice in the building
Okay.
or something?
I was thinking down the change orders, you had to at least publish the change. That may have changed.
That's what I want to check. I think there's some type of, there's some type of notice involved. I just want to find
Oh,
out what
yeah,
it is.
it's the same,
Yeah.
it's the same procedure, we have to put it in the paper and all that stuff. Yeah, before anything can go into effect, it's the same stuff, the rules.
No, I would
Yeah.
think so.
Please check me out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's correct.
How long, if one time,
I
two
think it's
times,
one
whatever?
time.
One
Nothing
time.
like that, and then a couple
2 weeks, in 30 days.
I think it'll be a couple of years on that.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second part, you have
I've got two quotes for those aerators to put down at the lagoon. One is for almost $29,878, and the other one is for $25,000. That's for 2 diffused air aerators.
How much do we have in our construction fund?
That I'm not
Equipment.
No, I
sure.
don't know right off the top of
Do we
my
have
head,
enough?
that's other thing. I mean, that's not just for aerators, that's for
Right.
anything like, but that's our
I think
part
it
of
was around
any grants
60,000.
stuff too, that also comes out of that.
got one pump down now.
I've got 2
Two
pumps,
pumps down, that broke.
which I haven't gotten a quote on those yet, but,
Do we have a relationship with either of those
We have,
companies?
solicited.
no.
From the bank.
No, but I have checked
finance
into
charges
these.
Too, so if we have to, we can do that.
I have checked into these, I've seen them work. Talked to folks that have them, they like them. I've got some cities here that use them. I've got, some, what you would save on energy costs as far as between these aerators and aerators like we have now.
What kind of warranty do they have?
I did ask the guys from the poultry plant to buy us one, but they refused.
At least you
I,
asked.
you know, I thought it was a good idea
That was a good
to
idea.
build
For that, I'm not
relations.
sure of.
If they have an equal warranty, I'm a big fan of warranties.
Okay,
On that kind of equipment,
We have financed
yeah,
I'll have to get back in touch with
Okay.
them.
it. We have financed it before.
yeah.
If necessary.
And so right now we're down 2, which means we have to do something.
One at the moment.
Yeah,
One is gonna
got
be
to have
checked
it.
out
Got that
tomorrow.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are the ones that are mounted on the bank?
The aerators,
Yeah. The new ones?
they are mounted on the bank, so it's less maintenance,
Easier to work on?
easier to work on,
The small bubble.
yeah. Diffused air, if y'all wanna look at these,
So,
think it's-
yeah, so,
I won't know what I'm looking at.
okay?
What is,
It's a record.
what's your code?
It's a copy.
I remember a couple, like we left at home.
Those
try
are
this.
Swiss.
You never had one?
Those
Do y'all
were
want
there.
to, look at this? and-
I'm not gonna know an aerator from an aerator.
Right.
But, as far as the purchasing, you know, how we go about, do we want to look at any financing, or we want to go ahead and do 2, we want to do 1?
Well, the current balance for the water and sewer construction bank account on 1-2 was $159,709.80.
I was thinking of those grants, that's where we're also kind of pay our part out of too,
Yeah.
on all this water and sewer stuff we got going.
Okay.
40.
So we've got to kind of keep that in mind as well.
So
Large
if we were to
chunk.
finance that, we would have to,
I can just ask the banks to be quoted.
quote. Do you wanna go ahead and do that, get a quote from the bank for financing, for one or two?
You don't have to accept it, I mean, it just
No, we'll
doesn't hurt to
right,
get it.
we'll just get a quote, and,
Just to
so,
have it.
The rates are getting a little volatile.
we'll get a quote for one, or get a quote for two.
And we quote them too.
Yeah,
We need both of them, at
Yeah.
least both of them, to start.
okay.
And
All right, to start.
both planning are putting 2 new ones down there also.
Can we get a bulk deal if we go into that?
Say it again.
If we go into the poultry plant and buy 4 at the same time, would we get a better deal?
I don't know, I'd have to talk to him, but
Yeah, call that,
I'll do it.
plant manager.
I'll make a motion that we get financial quotes from the bank for 2 of these, and if all things being equal, if the warranties are the same, I'd motion that we go with the one that's $4,000 cheaper.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion that we look into financing to purchase 2 of the ones at the lower bid price if everything is equal with them. All right, do we have a second to that motion? Nicole seconds. All in favor? And that's unanimous.
All right.
Thank you, David. Okay, we have our covered bids, and we'll open those. And what we usually do, because it's such a long list, is just take them in advisement, under advisement, make sure everything is equal. If we need to purchase, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Got 2 from G&O, this one is for the corrugated plastic pipe. We have a list, and it's usually from ADS. I think ADS pretty well has the G&O, this is on the corrugated metal pipe. Again, it's a list, we'll just have to compare. This is from Coburn on plastic and metal culverts. They all have lists. Michael will help me look at them tomorrow when he has time. And one more from Williams Equipment and Supply, and it's on the plastic and metal culverts again. And they have lists as well, so we'll compare them and see who has
Just
the.
make sure they all meet the specs.
A lot of times, most of them have the exact same thing as each other.
Yeah. So, I don't think we need a motion, do we?
Take them under advisement.
Just take them under advisement and compare them. Okay, the, Seven did. We'll get a second, we'll go ahead and Kagan, all in favor? Everybody there, we'll just take them under advisement. The next, is just for a matter of putting in minutes, the President's holiday, February 19th. So that will be a holiday.
But the schools are in session. They're using
Make
it
it
as
up.
another makeup day.
Make it up that day. Snow day.
Friday and Easter.
There gets our holiday. Okay, next on the agenda, Mandy Beard, the Second Chance Animal Alliance Agreement. Come on, Mandy. Yeah, Melissa.
Thank thank y'all for having us. It's been a long time coming for us to be able to meet with y'all, and we're super excited about all the change here in the city. We wanted to touch base with y'all today about the contract that we have with the city through Second Chance. When we were founded and we were formed 3.5 years ago, our contract stated that Second Chance would receive $30 a dog upon intake at a cap of 100 dogs a year. It also stated the city would provide for the animals in our care with supplying food or the monetary means to purchase, water, heat, air, and electricity for the building in which we inhabited. This, of course, was written while we still occupied the city of Water Valley Pound, and at max would be caring for 8 dogs at any given time. Over the lifetime of our organization, the city did uphold their promise to provide electricity and water, but have not fulfilled the contract entirely. Our terms of $30 per dog have not been fulfilled, and we've only been funded in the course of our lifetime as an organization for 25 dogs. Nor has the promise of providing food been fulfilled. We are currently receiving the food that we have for the animals in our care by our gracious donors, discounted bags from Hollywood Feed, and sometimes from our own personal checkbooks. We would like to start anew with the change in political seats by negotiating a new contract that would not just help us, but allow us to provide for the animals that are picked up by the Water Valley Animal Control. We'd also like to ask that a budget be created where the city assists in our providing for the animals one-on-one care by the hiring of 2 full-time and 2 part-time certified animal control officers, kennel attendants, and shelter staff. Currently, our 1 part-time, as she's labeled, a secondary animal control officer that works under our direction with Second Chance, works an estimated 43 hours a pay period, 7 days a week with no days off, and has done so for the last 2 years. Anytime that she takes a day of vacation, we have to ask for volunteers, or we have to take a day off from our jobs that pay our bills at our homes to fill in for her. She cares for 20+ dogs in our shelter, as well as the 6 dogs that currently inhabit the city pound. With the current guidelines in our contract, this gives her approximately 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening to care for, walk, and feed 30 dogs. It is absolutely impossible to give that number of animals the care and attention they so deserve in such a short amount of time. So we're asking today that all of this change and that we work together to make a difference here in our city. I put together a little expenditure form of how we operate with Second Chance and what it includes, and I'll leave it with y'all to look over. Our monthly expenditures, and it's broken down per dog and what it costs us out of our Second Chance fund every month. This does not include if we have someone that, you know, we ask that they come and we are super desperate and we have 60 dogs and can you please come and walk them because so-and-so needs a day off, and we just pay them for that day. This is simply just food and treats, modular housing, which what we consider it's their kennels and their crates. It's their monthly preventative medications, which every dog should be on, heartworm, flea, tick preventative, their microchip. Facility equipment that we constantly have to replace, which is water hoses, because dogs love to eat water hoses. Our air conditioner equipment, our gas, bedding, which includes their crates, their pads, their blankets, birthing pools here lately. And washing all of these essentials every week. Our miscellaneous essentials, collars, leads, tags, BSI supplies. We've had a huge parvo outbreak. The city pound is contaminated with parvo and has been for the last 25 years. And so we've treated 28 dogs in our care in the last 3.5 years with parvo. So we have to have BSI supplies. That's gloves, gowns. And our totals, it breaks down to a cost of $528.50 per animal, and that's 1 dog being brought in. And we only charge a $100 adoption fee. And also breaks down for the 30 dogs that we have in our care currently, we are out of pocket $10,455 a month. So, y'all want to pass that around and poke at it?
The reason we need staff, we need help. You know, we want the animal control officers to be certified or trained because they have to know how to approach our animals. They have to know how to handle these animals, no matter what kind of situation they find them. Do they need to be seen by a vet immediately, or can they wait till the next day? Is this dog truly vicious, or is it just scared and asking you to get back and leave me alone for a little bit? Currently, nobody who handles our animals with the city has this knowledge. We do. There was a situation in October where one was caught in a trap and shot in that trap because they thought it was too ferocious or too vicious.
It was ferocious.
But we
The
never got
contract
to
with the city states that
check
we are
that
to
out.
be contacted.
So, and we appreciate the concern for our safety, but you can't determine that in just that one meeting. I had one that I had to get from a landfill I called her Cujo, actually, when I first met her, because you would think she was going to eat your leg off if you got close to her. If you tried to pick the kennel up, she would bite at your hands. We put on welding gloves, we picked up the kennel and took her on back. After a few days, she sits on the couch and watches Golden Girls. Literally. You know, we need to show whoever's going to handle these animals how to decipher this and go from there. Because there's just no need when we're here and can do it. Hopefully, we're not at our job. But we also, you know, we get flooded with phone calls about people who think the animals aren't being taken care of by their neighbor. They don't have time to go out and check every single phone call. They try, but they don't. They don't have the time to sit there and educate these people about why the complaint was made in the first place, what they can do to better it. We can, we have, and we're willing to continue to do that. But we want to help show these people what you can do to make it a safer, better option and set that plan into motion. And we talked to Chief Hernandez and told him, you know, we want to help where we can get a better system going, and so we're hoping we can work with them a little bit more. But we need some changes and we need some help. We're capable of doing more than what we're doing.
And Chief Hernandez, when we spoke with him last week, is very much on board with us spreading our knowledge. I'm CPDT-KA, which is Certified Professional Dog Trainer, and I bring the knowledge home to all of the people in our organization. We're not just 6 girls that like to pet puppies. We carry certifications. 2 of us are Bark and ARC certified. We're also trained with vicious and aggressive dogs. We carry certifications that have cost us thousands of dollars to obtain, so we weren't just 6 girls that like to pet puppies. And Chief Hernandez, having a hard time getting used to calling me that, has talked to us, and when we spoke with him on Friday, he set up what we think may work is us speaking with the different officers that go on the neglect and the cruelty calls, or that they believe that a dog is vicious, where we would use our training to implement that into the police department, and the possibility of one of the new officers that is going to the academy, or one of the new hires, that they may want to hold the title of being a certified animal control officer and take the steps that it requires to do that. We are one of the only counties here in the state of Mississippi that has a dog pound, that there's a contract with another rescue group, or that the city has a holding cell or a holding facility that the city is picking up dogs, and there are no certified animal welfare agents that pick up that dog. Or a full-time. Some of them do have part-time ones, but they are still certified. We are one of the only ones that doesn't have that.
Michael is operating the capacity now.
How's he able to do that?
He gets a call. If he gets a call. But just so a few figures here that we've spent a little over $30,000 in salaries to help on the feeding and care for the dogs. The only time we received a billing on the $30 a day was for 37 dogs. That was back in 2015. We paid $1,110. We've not received notice since then.
Well, there's supposed to be a record when a dog is picked up in the city limits. A record is supposed to be made here at City Hall of that dog's existence before it's transferred to our facility, and we're, as far as we know, that's not happening either.
Which facility are y'all operating out of?
We're on a boat.
So dogs that are captured in the city are taken to the pounds in the city still?
The pound is full.
That's full.
There it's coming to our shelter
us
now.
at our building, which is fine. That's when we're set up and done at our building. We want this one Out of commission.
Yeah, the city pound should no longer be utilized after our building is completely.
Of course, we paid all the electric and water down there, which is our pound.
And at the new one.
Yeah, and we've been, made the agreement we would continue at the new one, because we didn't have a current agreement at this time.
So does the $10,455 a month, does that not include overhead heating and cooling things? This is out
No,
of pocket?
that's just out-of-pocket expenses.
So this doesn't include what's also being paid
Correct.
by the cities? And so the process is, if someone calls the police about a dog, who, does a police officer go, or does Mike go?
Officer usually goes, but that's once it comes to us. Officer will go, or if Scroggins gets it, then he'll notify us. We'll come to the scene.
And
So
then-
people are calling you directly about dogs?
No. They call it.
They all call the police department, and then what happens after that? What's the procedure?
Well, once they notify us, we notify Scroggins, the officer's gonna go over and find out what's going on.
So an
One,
officer goes with Mike?
It
No.
depends. It depends if the officer can locate the dog, and if the dog's in violation of the city ordinance. Okay, if the dog is still in the yard, and unless we get a witness that says the dog was out and they wanna file a complaint against them, then, there's nothing really we can do, as long as the dog's in the yard, except talk to the owner and let them know that, hey, look, your dog's out getting out, and people are complaining about it. And then we'll make them aware of the dog ordinance. But if the dog goes out onto the sidewalk, crosses the street, goes into another neighbor's yard, and the officer sees it, then the officer can enforce the city ordinance and issue a citation at that point. If Scroggins sees the dog outside, he can sign the affidavit, and the officer will swear it and serve it.
If he's there with the officer?
Even if the officer, if he's seen the dog, and we're notified, and the officer gets there, and he wants to file a complaint, he can sign the affidavit, and the officer will swear it, and then it'll be served to the owner if it's determined who the owner is.
Okay, so when is SCAA brought into that scenario?
Well, that was another thing that we talked about, was because if the dog, we've had a few different things that's happened. We've had dogs brought to the station, which we're not a dog receiving facility.
Right, okay.
But because they just turn around and leave them, we have to do something. So we have secured the dogs there up until we notify Second Chance.
Okay.
And then once Second Chance is notified, they'll come and they usually secure the dog.
So have all of our officers been trained on this procedure and how to deal with
We have a
dog
written
calls?
policy of what's supposed to happen. It's posted all over the PD.
There's about, okay.
All right, now, has it been followed to the letter? Probably not.
Can you get us a copy of that?
Yeah.
Where did the $30,000?
It pays Abby. It's a part-time animal control officer that feeds and cleans.
Comes from our general fund.
Is that annual, or is that total that we spend?
That's total.
Okay.
It's part-time, it's like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening.
So is that 7 days a week?
Yeah.
No, it's what they've done total.
It's not the annual,
No,
it's all
no.
together in the last
No,
2.5 years.
that was total.
Is that where else? That's what I said.
Okay.
Get through
So-
2 hours.
So your
let's give it-
operating budget is over $120,000 a year. Realistically, Water Valley doesn't have that money.
Oh, we don't have that money.
So if you were, because you mentioned 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees, which would potentially, if you average $25,000 per full-time, which is, I think that's, was it 22? It's minimum wage.
25.
What does that mean here?
Like 18 grand.
Yeah,
Okay.
18.
So that staffing level would be about $50,000 annually, which is that's not being paid today. That would be a new structure. Is that right? So we'd be looking at $170,000 in operating. Is that what you're requesting, $170,000, or is it a portion of the $170,000?
It's a portion. We need employees that can, like I said, we all have regular jobs. And of course, on our days off and after hours, before work, we live and breathe Second Chance. But for the daily grind, the feeding, the cleaning, the walking, Abby's the only person that we have. We need another. She can't take any days off. Even if we had 2 part-time or 3 part-time employees, one that was just a PRN person to fill in for the other 2 part-time would be acceptable.
The problem, we get flooded with phone calls daily. I know because I have the phone. But, you know, well, what are your hours there? I don't have a set hour. I'm a nurse at the clinic right now, and I'm going to have to call you back after 5:30. You know, that kind of thing. Abby, we know what time she's normally there, so if it's a, you know, dire need of coming to see if we have your dog, or, you know, they're not going to wait. We tell them, you know, we don't take an owner surrender right now. They're just going to drop them off after hours anyway.
Like they did
Sunday. But, you know, to have a body there would be, we need it. We need more help.
So with the added staff that you're requesting, say you had one other person that was hired, you'd have one that would be dealing with the dogs, one that would be answering the phone, and then helping out with the dogs when necessary. Would it be increased hours? You know, you said 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon.
It would definitely need to be increased hours. The 2 hours in the morning and the 2 hours in the evening, that was our cap. That was what we were allowed to have.
Okay.
So definitely it needs to be 4 to 5 hours morning and evening.
Okay.
And it would be great if we could alternate 2 bodies where one person does mornings, one person does evenings. This is just for the hands-on care of the dogs. This does not include the part where we're answering the phone, we're picking up dogs from places, we run dogs to the vet, their vaccines, anything like that. We handle everything. This is literally just for hands-on feeding, cleaning kennels, taking them for a walk, letting them use the restroom, and putting them back in.
How long have their stay been there? These dogs, what's the longest you keep them at the pound? 3 years?
At the city pound or with us, just in
Or
general?
anything you take in the
Our
city?
longest
or are
residence that we
supposed to-
currently have is 1.5 years.
Are we supposed to keep them for like 2 years, got to keep them up for 2 years or what? Or are we moving?
Since the contract was signed with us,
This contract ran out in 2016.
Yeah.
But the mayor and the board,
In 2016, yes.
I
Well,
feel like
that-
Mr. Larry, he was fine working like we were, and then when he left.
and during y'all's budget meeting, I think I asked about, you know, what were we to do, and he was like, y'all will continue on the way you are until everything changes.
The question I have is the separation between city dogs picked up in the city and other dogs that y'all may take in from the county or somebody drop.
We're trying to get in with the county.
I know, but I'm talking about today. I think what you're putting in the proposal is us pay 100% of all of it.
80% of the dogs that are in our care at Second Chance come from the city of Water Valley. And we keep records of that. They have an intake form with their folders when they're brought in with us that are filled out by Mandy and myself, and every dog has their own folder of where they came from, how long they stayed with us, where they were transferred to, who adopted them.
And a prime example is we just had a neglect situation that was in the county. We had 6 dogs from there. None of those 6 dogs are counted in with anything budgeted that's with the city.
Right, and of course, we work with the county on that because that's a county ordeal, not a city ordeal.
So I would say that the organization is very valuable to the community. And the fact that they have the volunteer network, Daniel just said, one of the dogs at his house.
Daniel's a foster.
We foster. It's going to take a community effort because there's not money to just write a check to support the effort. I would like to find a way to help with staffing. That seems to be the most critical right now.
Correct.
I don't know what dollar figure we have to apply to that.
Especially since we're halfway through a budget
What
year.
fund, what fund?
What
are
fund
they
would
paid
go?
for?
Well, general fund.
We've been paying.
General police portion.
I also, this is a really long agreement, which,
And I just got yesterday at 4:53 p.m., so I'm sorry I didn't read it.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a fun time. Good reader.
There, it takes into consideration a lot of potential scenarios.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
Do you email
This is not in the email, right?
No. Your email had the 2 contracts and Vivian sent this,
Yeah, it was probably
This
one of
was
those.
today.
Well, we're continuing to honor this right now, even though it technically has expired. And
Right, on my
So
correspondence from y'all
in the
this week.
immediate term, I would recommend, if we haven't been billed since 2015, that you send the city a bill at $30 a head.
and then give everybody a chance to look over this,
I'd
since if you just got
I'd like to
to
see
look over
this
it.
What you
shortened,
sent
and I'd like
today at 5 something
our
was
chief,
the other 2.
if we have a policy in place, a chain of communication, I'd like to put it in this document.
Well, this document actually was the first one between us and Second Chance, not city policy.
Or just what they, in terms of what we can expect as a service.
Right.
So if we have our policy written that when our staff contact Second Chance,
Right.
what we get back.
Right,
from
but
Second
I don't
Chance.
think it would need to be part of the agreement, would it, Daniel?
No, it'd be a separate policy.
Yeah, because it'd be our policy.
And I think that, based on my experience, each call that's been put in for a particular dog in the city, it's handled differently every time. And we don't have a set way that there's no protocol in place, where you can say, look at this piece of paper, boom, boom, boom. Call comes into the city, police department, dispatch tells the officer goes to the location. When is the dog catcher involved with that part, and when is he called, and then when is SCAA called, and then the different scenarios that are in this operation agreement would be put into a policy as well to see, okay, under policy, if it's this situation, then these things happen. 1, 2, 3, and everybody's on the same page, and there's no guesswork, and there's no confusion, and there's no communication issues, which I think that's probably the biggest part of our problem right now. On the defense of the police department, we have new officers. I don't think that animal control with the volunteer, entity is at the very top of their training. We're trying to get them through their regular training and out on the streets and learn that job. But it's still an important part of the job because it's a call just like any other call. So Tony's got this policy for how the police are going to go out on that. We will build our policy from that if you can get that to us. If you have, Mike.
If we're gonna do this, I'd like to have it, because I don't know nothing on what we're supposed to do. This was laid in my lap over a year and a half ago.
Yes, sir, and that's why I'm confused. How do you
If I'm gonna be a dog catcher,
He doesn't have the time at all. He wears like 5 different hats.
You're the department head for the street department, you're the department head for the sanitation department, you're the department head for cemeteries and parks, and now you've been laid with dog catcher. I'm not sure how you juggle all those things, and my hat is off to you.
well, I
because
appreciate it very much.
We're gonna have to, and what we need to do is, once we get our policy and procedure in place, and once we look over this, operation and license agreement, then we all need to sit down together and have a meeting, and just have, hey, powwow, understanding, go over it all together, and any questions or comments we can address at that time. But right now, it's kind of this big ball of wax we're gonna have to unravel.
What department do we pay dog catching fees out of?
I pay any dog catcher, they're not paying me, except I'm charged for what time, my full time.
Right, so if,
So
So you get paid
I
at all? You
charge
get paid
my
when you
time.
go out to look at a dog or anything?
Well, not all the time, but they did have it said where it's $100 a month. $100 a month to go out of here and chase a dog for 3 hours and stuff with it. Well, my hat is changed that I don't have time to be running for 3. If I'm gonna do it, my service needs to be paid for.
The previous person that had this had a $5 a dog deal, and
Right.
we would get 30 dogs at Christmas because it was.
I'm not gonna be that way. I'm not.
So, so where does that $100 per month for dog catcher come out of? Is there a specific?
It was out of the police.
$100,
So that's out of the
Comes
police.
out of what?
Out of the police.
Are you
fund.
getting that?
I'm getting my time, my hourly time.
Hourly time.
But
He doesn't get that extra.
Doesn't get that.
And then the 4 hours a day.
Do we need to hire a dog catcher?
Yes.
No, I'm not asking you, honey. Wait a minute.
if the city wants to find one, that's fine with me. I do the best of my abilities, what I have, what I've been told, and with what little knowledge I have. Now, if I, you give me paperwork stuff, when the police department calls me to pick the dog up, I go to where it's at.
Okay.
If I can get the dog, I'll pick the dog up. Then I try and call second chances. Most of the time, Abby is the only one that I can ever get a hold of. Okay? So then she makes the arrangement. She takes the dog in. I give her the dog, help her get it inside the building or whatever, leave it in the cage for her. After that, then that's all I do. I don't have any paperwork that I know that I'm supposed to fill out or anything like that. That's the way it's been laid in my lap.
Is there anything the dog catcher is supposed to have in his possession as far as paperwork from with you guys or with from the police
Before
department?
this was thrown on Michael, like I said, this has nothing to do with him. Before it was thrown on him, the understanding that we had that was that every dog that was picked up by the city would be presented to City Hall for a photograph to be taken, for a dog to be posted as missing or picked up here inside City Hall in case someone came looking for their dog, and an intake sheet would be filled out. And then they would be brought to us.
So who was responsible for that? Vivian or who? I mean, who was supposed to be doing that?
If they brought it to me and I'd take a picture of it if I had one brought to me with my phone.
But
Yeah,
I basically
print
pick
it
the
out,
dog if I
post
take
it.
a picture.
And that's not your job. I mean, you shouldn't be responsible for that.
Good, you know.
And which budget is paying for the 4 hours of dog care today? The $30,000 we spent on this. That's also.
Anything like this goes under police.
Because the dog catcher falls under police.
Police, it is.
Because they're under their.
Officially on the audit.
So I would like to look and see if we can add a minimum fine and more part-time hours to help at the facility.
Yeah, we'll look at a lot of things. Like I said, I'm not ready, I don't think anybody's ready to adopt this alliance agreement tonight, because most of you probably don't know
We
what
don't
all's
have
in
the
it.
new one, we just have the old one.
Yeah.
So this-
Is there a new one?
No.
No.
This is the
This is
same
ours.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's no
So
provision.
you're looking to,
We need a brand
renew the
new one.
current.
Yes.
We need a brand new situation.
And, but we will continue, to pay our part, but if you will give us a bill on the other animals that we have not received a bill for. Like I said, the last one we got was, what, 15, so, we can do that now, because that was part of the agreement.
Sure,
to start with.
right.
Let's catch up with our bills.
Yeah, we catch up. Just,
Please give it.
Does anyone?
Again, sometimes, like our meeting this afternoon, a lot of things is communication. There's a breakdown, communication, how things should be handled. And we try to handle our part on a more orderly fashion, dealing with y'all, as y'all do with us. And we'll look towards these other things.
Yeah.
But we appreciate y'all. As y'all know, my wife is very much a dog person. I see a lot of checks that y'all get, so we do appreciate y'all.
We appreciate
Do you
y'all.
find out after the fact?
Yeah, well.
If that's the case, that's the relationship she and I need to keep.
That's right. So we do appreciate the work y'all do.
What is our process if we want to start replacing this document with a current one?
That goes to our legal and maybe he meeting directly with them.
I
That's
say
what I-
last time we met with
They
Mr.
met
Larry
last
and
time.
Mr. John Crow. We met with the both of them, and that was drawn up
Well, I rather,
from those meetings.
no offense, I rather the compensation. the
And that would
financial
come
side
back
of
to
that,
us.
I
Yeah.
think probably needs to be
That was
ironed out
before they
before
agreed.
we put it on paper.
Oh, yeah.
So what's our next step?
Well, I have to read the
Yeah,
document.
first of all, I think y'all need to know
You
what's
know,
in there.
Yeah, to know what's in there
And
and what's
make
expected
notes,
of us and.
What
and
you want to see.
Revisit.
We'll talk with Daniel.
this.
Visit it next month?
Give it them.
It
Yeah.
puts,
Well, 2 weeks.
well, yeah, if we review it next month, and then come back with an idea of how much more money we're gonna put towards it, or what things we're gonna change, then we can iron that out, and y'all can tell me what to do.
Okay. Can we do that in 2 weeks?
All right.
So,
So we just kind of really just kind of tabled it tonight. So appreciate you ladies coming.
Ms. Vivian, can we put that on the 2-week schedule? Then we'll all come with our wish list and have like
Can y'all be here again on,
Mine's like a binder, you should get ready.
the
Can we make
20th
it
at
shorter?
6:30?
Yeah,
20th
we
at
would love it if
6:30.
it was short,
February
sweet, to the
20th.
point. We're also
Sorry.
big sticklers and big fans of, as Cinnamon said, protocol and the way things are to be done, and that way if somebody deviates from the plan, we can be like, you.
There are exceptions to policy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you understand that, but we'll have something general to go by.
Part of it's the phone.
So
You can add that.
we'll start with, we'll look at this individually.
And we're available by phone if you have
Yeah,
any
sure, I
questions.
think I know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I think you know somebody.
Might know somebody.
Do we,
And Tony's gonna get that document to us, and, you wanna start advertising for a dog catcher position, or what's the deal?
We have to look at the budget for how we
Actually,
went in training.
personnel discussions.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
What is the timeline for your new facility to be completely online?
6 months.
And if, once it is, if we shut down the cinder block facility, will you be able to handle everything out of your new
Correct.
facility?
Our intentions actually were to take the 6 months on the front end and actually complete our building and then just have it move in ready. And we got such a sudden influx of dogs from the city, we had nowhere to put them. And then, I don't know if you've heard about OLHS and their refusal to accept dogs from other counties and the big situation that they're all in with their board of aldermen and such. So they have to stay with us. So we went from, okay, well, we've got 1 in a crate to 15 very quickly within the matter of a month, and that slowed our construction down, and here we are.
And the spring is coming.
Yeah. Spring is coming.
So if you want to help the city out and lower its costs, adopt a dog. That's the message.
We like that.
Or spay and neuter your own pets. That'd be great too.
Even better.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's try to move on now. Our next on agenda is the cable franchise agreement. And I'm sorry, I forgot names.
When do we decide to continue this
Good evening.
meeting?
I'm Rick Farrell. I'm the Regional General Manager for Max South Broadband. I'm going to go back. We started, we sent a notification back in 2013 to Mayor Hart that it's the federal guidelines that we have to follow on a franchise renewal. It just says that we're within the 3-year window of the franchise expiring, and it's time to start negotiating a new franchise. Several calls, meetings, sent the franchise agreement, and it just never went anywhere. And then Mr. Martin and I spoke, it's been a month or so ago, and it was time to pick it up and let's get an agreement done. So he's got the franchise that we had sent, and I had talked to Mr. Crow prior to that on the franchise agreement, and I'm here to answer any questions. And
I have a couple. Can you tell me why the proposed agreement is at 4% and not 5%?
that's what it is currently. You are allowed up to 5% gross.
Is there any pushback from Max South on that?
Oh, no, the only pushback is that's a straight pass through to the customer. So that is purely the board's decision. We have, obviously we would prefer it not be, because it does raise our customers' bills, but it is your option.
Is that on customer bills, is that a separate line item?
Yes, it is.
So I called 2 mayors and then a couple other companies that offer the service and was told that 5% is standard. And
I have 70 some franchises across the state. I have a couple that are paying 0 franchise fee. They don't want to pass that on. I'd say probably 70% of them are at the 5%. Have a number that are at 4%, and different levels in between.
okay, so I'd like to see that at 5%. And then there was, I brought my letter from Max South this year, which I've received every year,
They've gone
with the
over.
fee increases to your customers. Can you tell us, how long have you been operating in Water Valley?
Through the different companies. The different companies have been here close to 30 years.
So, so Max South, when did Max South buy?
November of 2014.
And so we've been customers, I think I have 3 Max South accounts from various locations, and every year, your rates seem to go up between 7 and 10%. Can you tell us why that is?
We are doing our best to keep up with the programming increases, the pole attachment increases, our labor increases. I mean, it's just, these increases have not kept up with the increases that we're seeing from programmers. We just finished a round of negotiations with local broadcasters, which we have to do every 3 years. Some of them are staggered in different years, but those are negotiations for us to be able to carry their over-the-air programming that if you have an antenna is free, we have to pay for it. The average increase on those this year was over 75%. So that's one of them. The other one is the biggest driver is the sports programming that we carry. The ESPNs, the Fox Sports, those programming fees are escalating far beyond that 10%.
Is that something that you considered breaking out so that they weren't bundled? So that
Our
consumers would have
contracts don't
choice?
allow it. Not only do they tell us that we have to carry their programming, the contracts require we carry them at certain levels, and then we also have to carry their other programming. I'll use ESPN as an example. ESPN is owned by Disney. Our contract requires that we carry ESPN, ESPN News, ESPN2, ESPN Classic, ESPNU. Actually, that's one we get to pick and choose, I think. But then it's all the other Disney programming besides that. You know, it is something, you know, we have as a, we're a smaller cable operator. We belong to a conglomerate of companies that are smaller operators. And we have lobbied Congress for well over 10 years asking that we be allowed to unbundle those in our agreements because it's going to take Congress to do it. The problem is the larger cable operators own some of those programming companies. So they're not as encouraged to have us do that. So it really is it's a catch-22. Bottom line, we're losing video customers. And we understand that. And we don't like it, but in the same token, you know, we have to try to maintain the cost. Our margins on our video product go down every single year.
Is there any motion on discussion about including internet services under the franchise fee?
Right now, they're excluded. And that's by federal law. You know, I think somewhere down the road, because the video customers are decreasing, my guess is somewhere down the road they'll either be included or flip-flopped. Because Universal Service Fund that you pay on your phone bill, that used to fund phone service to rural customers. A few years ago they changed that, and now it's for broadband expansion. So I think that'll probably happen down the road. I don't have this crystal ball to see when that'll happen.
And my last question, I'm sorry to Schedule A is blank. I'd like to see all of our schools.
And they probably already have service, and if they don't, we do provide service. And that's the list we need from you. We provide free service to any of our public schools. We provide free service to City Hall if you want it, fire stations, police stations, libraries.
About courthouses?
Yes.
So if we can add all those to Schedule A, is that purely?
If it's any city public facility.
And that's purely video, that's not internet
That is
service?
correct. It is a video franchise. And it does also include, you know, if we're a mile from it, we're not going to build cable to service it. But if we have service available, we provide it at no cost.
So that was all mine. I'd like to see the franchise rate at 5%. And I'd like Appendix A to be filled out to include all of our public schools. And that's, having read through it, it's non-exclusive, which surprised me, but I guess that, so
They
anybody
can't-
else
they
could come
cannot
to
be
town.
exclusive.
So Ceasefire or AT&T could come to town and there's nothing that would exclude them from doing that. They have to have a similar. So is that, can I put that in the motion?
What part?
That we amend this to increase the franchise fee to 5% and we expand appendix, or I'm sorry,
Oh,
Schedule
sure.
A to include all of our public schools, courthouse, city hall. Do we want the police department to have free cable?
It's, I'll be honest, most police stations and fire departments want it for the weather, if nothing else.
But,
And they may already have it.
so once Schedule A is expanded and the franchise fee is raised to 5%, I would move that we enter this agreement. Is it a 5-year term?
It's 10-year term.
10-year term.
It's just fire department and schools.
It's all
City
in
hall.
city public facilities.
Yeah.
So courthouse, city hall, fire, police, and public
And
schools.
I can work
Library.
with the clerk on the list.
Oh, library. Yeah, okay,
So let's
so
give a
the
list of
last-
public facilities and put them all in there.
Well, if y'all just, vote on his.
The motion,
his
yeah, we have a
language, it'll
motion, we
cover
need,
it. That'll be
yeah,
it.
we need a second to his motion. Nicole seconds, to get those franchise fees to us. 5%, and to, schedule all the offices on the schedule. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, any other discussion, any other questions?
Sorry, it was me to do it because I pay a lot.
And we appreciate
A friend of mine just paid $2,500 to run 500 foot of cable to her house because you wouldn't cross the road. Right up the street right here. So,
There's language on what we, in the agreement of what we're required to do, but I will,
that was in the city limits.
city limits. Do you have an address or a name, and I can give you.
Oh, the,
Yes, I would say not mention a name.
yeah, I'm not mentioning the name, I'm trying to remember the address.
That's probably just as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, if you want, if you want to
Yeah.
Look
just,
straight right here.
if you want to send it to me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so all in favor? And it's unanimous.
And with that, I also have your franchise fee check for last quarter.
Thank
Maybe I should have done that first.
Appreciate you coming
Thank you very
tonight.
much.
Thank
Make
you.
sure your time right.
What is our, is that public, what is our?
Yeah, anything will be published,
Can you tell us what?
absolutely.
It's quarterly?
Yeah.
It's usually around 6,000. 5,731. Sometimes it is 6,000.
Kind of losing some customers, like I said.
I thought it was interesting in the old agreement from 1989, it was,
25-year one?
yeah, the 25-year one, $2.50 per pole that's owned by the city of Water Valley.
They have
Wow.
changed that pole.
Yeah,
That's
no
been
longer.
changed.
Yeah.
We're paying, I think, $18 for
That's
that.
changed.
Yeah.
That changed.
I was like, wow,
There's a new
$2.50.
agreement that TVA is taking under, and it's not even our choice. They basically came to us and they set regs valley-wide that they'll pay this amount now. And what we really found out, just like he said, the expenses, they were surprised. They thought they were gonna find companies taking advantage of it, but they found out that everybody's losing money on it. So,
Does that come in as, like inventory tax or that $18? Excuse me, where does that
That's
$18
what I
go?
mean, no,
where it's got, it's paid, it's an agreement with me. I have one with a cable company, I have one with a telephone, and actually they're coming up to be renewed now. And it's an agreement between them, that goes to the electric department.
maintain those. Okay, let's move along. We got the county fire agreement. Which we enter into.
Fire agreement?
Yeah, fire protection operation agreement.
Well, if and when we approve this, we execute it and then we send it off to the Attorney General's office for them to approve it, and then it becomes official, so there's a little bit of oversight by them, because it's interlocal agreement.
Is this different in any way than how we've been operating?
No.
The only thing Frankie told me we could do it for the term that says on a daily basis, I don't think talk to you about it.
No.
Why is that? I'll ask him to, but he like I said, you don't have to do it that way.
I think we did these every year, haven't we?
I think Frankie told me, well, yes, he said we can do it now by the term instead of just on a regular basis if we wanted to.
So they're
That's what he
printed
said.
out, so we don't have to look at it every year.
Yeah.
That's up to us, but he did tell me.
When was the last time, I mean, who comes up with this to be payable? Where does that number come from?
From the county end, I think.
I think what that is, that's some of that rebate money, they get it and they give it up.
Okay,
Amongst
that's right.
all the counties,
That's
that's
right.
some of the
Just one of
rebate
those
money they
maybe
give it up
100.
between all the counties. So we act as with the mutual aid, we act as a fire department for the county also.
How
How did that $5,000?
If you had to ballpark it, how many of your fire calls are in the county versus in
Well,
the
the
town?
state says over half of it. It's half. Rape was raised at half.
So
See,
if
we
I-
only did 25%.
Our
out of
supervisor
the
just
county.
left.
I know, he's just getting a rate from the Max South guy. He's coming back.
That's about half people.
This says, the parties agree that the city will respond to fires outside the corporate limits of the city. And, my note was how far and what radius. I mean, you go all the way to the next, city limits, so you're gonna go right outside of Oakland
We
and
got a
Bill?
911 limit, we got a 911 circle, we just go down to King Road, just about a circle. Then we got a 5-mile radius of water. With that 5-mile
It's
radius
not
gonna take.
countywide, no.
No, it's not
But it
countywide.
doesn't specify that in
Yeah.
this agreement, so that's what, you know, that could be. I know you go out to Velmo to, as far as the boat landing,
We go to boat landing,
but that's more than 5 miles.
it's pretty close. It's
Right
about-
at it.
If you go down that jump and Exxon and take it, that ain't that.
Is it by the way the crow flies and the actual, because I think that's the difference.
That's probably the difference.
But
So
It's
half
Actually, we
of
got a 911 circle now, that when 911 rings, they go down to King Road, and I don't know how far it go out. It go out to about 102 on 32.
Okay,
And probably out to Danny Ross Ingle.
okay.
That's our 911 circle.
And
He's
it-
got an extended area, I think, that with the county.
So I don't know what common practice is in this field, but our fire department budget is 400 and something thousand. And half of their efforts go to the county, which pays 5,000.
And
Is that-
that's where I was asking about that money. It comes from another fund, and it's like a pie that they get a piece of, and that they give us a piece of that. So I'm not sure if there's any more money that we could be allotted for that, which was my question,
And-
my initial question.
at this, of course, at this point in time, I'm sure the county's already set their budgets and everything too, so.
Right, we gotta make a new budget. It's coming up
Yeah.
this year, so, something
I
to
mean,
look forward
ours,
to in the
yeah,
future.
would be in the, August, we're working on
We're
budget.
talking about it in this.
Yeah.
But
I
that's,
see that same amount to every volunteer fire department.
I know that for someone who lives in that fire outside of the city limits, but doesn't live in the city, they're paying,
Their fire rating's a 10 in the county.
but they're paying a county tax bill, which is 3 times the rate of the city tax bill. No offense that we're talking about the county, but the county's revenue is 3 times the city of Water Valley's revenue. And so for somebody who's living in that 5-mile band, we are their primary fire prevention function.
Yes.
And we have no revenue from those folks.
Well, the
It's not in the
volunteers,
fire.
they also are in those areas we are too. Sherman designates a truck for county,
We got a truck with it.
for the county.
Does that truck cost more than $5,000 a year?
We had a truck with it.
But,
Fire department is the fire department, man. Like I said, half the calls go out in the county.
and of course, a lot of the volunteers also come in to the city. And,
And they,
And they get paid per call.
yeah, like $10.
come out the radio bureau, Anything outside the city limits, Water Valley is a class 10. We are at a class 7.
But
Because
if
we
the
got the
county-
water. Now, when you go out, that's the reason that is different is because when you go out in the county, you don't have the water supply. Water is 40% of it. So that's the difference.
But the Fire Rating Bureau said if the county would just designate this district, they could automatically go down from a 10 to possibly an 8.
They had to do all of it.
Just
They
to
had to do every
designate
one
them.
of them. They had to, we already in our own fire district. Water Valley, that's why we
Right,
got
but
the 7.
there's another fire district they could
But
put
you gonna
out
have to do
there,
every
and that would
last one.
automatically bring their rating.
You're gonna have to do every last one.
Yeah,
Every last
it's,
one in the county
it's a pretty complicated process.
And then you're gonna miss somebody. That's why they say they really don't want to do it.
So I wouldn't be comfortable voting on this until I knew a little more about what is common practice.
I think this is pretty common.
Yeah, we just
I
respond
called
outside city
down
limits.
and talked to,
We got a line we go to and that's it.
yeah, Richard Watkins, I talked to him, and he said that's kind of common, but, you know, he said that the money, is based on, I can't remember,
It's based on the whole state, I think. ain't it?
yeah.
It's based on the whole state. How much money they have left over from the insurance they collect in.
Right, so this isn't, so effectively that is not tax revenue from the county. So the
No.
county doesn't share any of its tax revenue to support fire costs.
I don't know the answer
Fire
to that.
prevention. I'd like to know that and have that discussion maybe with our county supervisors before we.
You know, on major fires, they have come into the city too. I mean, it's
Well,
a
they
mutual
do.
agreement.
Depending on what part of the city it is.
Yeah.
Some parts they got them in,
Yeah.
because Stevens Street don't have no fire plug.
Right.
Got 2 across the bypass. So anything across the bypass, the county gonna come.
Right.
So it's a mutual agreement.
It's a
Back
mutual
and forth.
agreement.
But
They,
it's not-
they
it's not-
come and we go too. So it's,
The question is really, would overhead drop without this agreement?
Right, I mean, we
That's
need this,
not
we need this agreement.
Quite the question.
yeah.
The question is the value of the service provided. It doesn't matter how much it costs us, it matters what the value is to the person who's getting the service.
But if your house is on fire, what's the
I
value?
could let you borrow your car. That doesn't change its value to me.
But this is an agreement that we do need, you know.
But we
Can I
need,
ask for 2 weeks to get confirmed?
when is the current agreement expired? Do we have till September
I think it
2018?
has. No.
I think this
That's when
one
they pay.
this is when they'll pay us their next 5,000. They normally pay us around that
So
time
we,
frame, but we
right
just.
now, we're not in an interlocal agreement
I think it
under, for
expired.
fire protection? Is that correct?
Would appear so.
Yeah, there's no
Uh,
We're
We didn't know it till we started digging.
September of last year.
we're just.
That's why we brought all these
Year
up.
by year. Normally,
because-
we.
Well, a lot of this was on
normally
my
they-
list of stuff I've been asking about.
Normally, the county has been, the county has been holding out on this one until the first.
Yeah.
So I'd like to request that we table this until 2 weeks from now, so just for my own sake, I'll do some, I'll get myself comfortable or Gary uncomfortable.
But we will continue to operate under it, as it hadn't expired because the continuation of
Whatever
services.
verbal we have right now should keep going until we replace it.
Okay, so you're making a motion that we table this agreement to 2 weeks? Do we have a second to that?
What'd you say?
He had a motion that we table it for 2 weeks, this agreement. And, do we have a second to that motion to table it?
Yes.
Okay.
I-
All right.
I want
seven-
you to be comfortable with what this, because I've had more conversations with the state than you have, and I'll let you catch up to that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table this for 2 weeks and bring it back in 2 weeks. All in favor? And it's unanimous, so we will address it again in 2 weeks. So, put that back on the agenda.
It comes out of this fund, and it's like.
I remember
it's
where this
kind of
money
like
comes
a-
from. I'm trying to get over the fact that the county takes in so much more tax revenue than we do. It doesn't chip it.
So,
You have to kind of separate that
That's
part.
all we get from the county?
For fire.
See, tell you what you have to realize, that all the county fire departments are volunteers.
Volunteer.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
So, you know, they're not, the county's not spending that money either.
And I understand the county's cash strapped.
Yeah, but anyway,
It's
okay,
everybody.
we'll look at it again too.
Okay, the county don't, they're not paying their fire, nobody in the county is paying fire.
That's right, they're not
Nobody,
paid.
it's free.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying, we doing, kind of offering the service to them, just like they doing us, cause for the mutual aid agreement. They come into the city too.
That's right.
That's what the agreement comes in,
Yeah.
they just give $5.
Yeah, we need them just as much as they need
Yeah,
us.
we need them just as much.
Absolutely.
And they just give us $5,000 just as a county unit.
Well, we're gonna give Kagan some time to
To get comfortable.
get comfortable with it, and that's all that that's the only thing we're doing.
Okay, let's try to move on with it. We'll look at that in 2 weeks.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Okay, next one is the audit agreement. Excuse me. Let's move on. I'm getting the phone. The audit agreement from the Ronnie Wyndham CPA firm. Have y'all had a chance to look all that?
And this is the same one, the same money amount we've had.
Same thing we've had since Ronnie's been doing them.
I read it's a really good contract. My only concern was I'd kind of like some fresh eyes. Just as we usually swap out auditors periodically to have, if someone's seen the same numbers 5 years in a row, they're less likely to see an anomaly than someone who's looking at all the numbers for the first time. That was my only.
I haven't had a chance to approach y'all yet. He had said, go ahead, if it's okay if I just make this comment, it's something dealing with the electric department with this. TVA's pushing us. Last year, they nicely made a suggestion. They've come to me more wanting us to separate at our expense, alderman to do the electric part of it. I mean, not an alderman, alder to do the electric and not use the same one. They've been pushing on it and they've contacted me about it again. So that'll save y'all money because it won't be as much work for y'all's auditor to do, but and I'm sorry, I didn't know y'all were gonna do this tonight. I would've got some more information. In 2 weeks, I can have you some though.
Okay.
So we'll put you on the agenda in 2 weeks to come and give us more information about that.
How long
Thank
have we
you.
used Ronnie Wyndham?
It's been several years upon the recommendation of Joe Black.
Yeah.
Joe used to do it, and then he just,
I think ever since I've been on board.
it's been several years. I don't know exactly how many, but it has
At
been
least
several.
12.
So,
Yeah, because Joe did it previously, and then like I said, Ronnie worked for Joe, of course, and then went on his own.
So he may have been looking at our numbers for a decade.
it has been a while.
Yeah.
But I don't know right now without looking.
Is this something that we would put out for bid if we wanted to have other firms?
Services?
Or do we just ask them?
Dana?
I don't think so, but I'll double check tomorrow.
So again, we're tabling for pushing it down the road.
I'd like to, well, we don't know exactly what
Yeah, what
the job is.
what TVA is gonna require us to do, so
But once we know that, I'd like to, if there is a bid process, entertain.
Daniel can check on that and let us know about that, so we need to.
I looked into that several months ago, and I was told that if someone had a recommendation, they could bring it to the table and voted on it that way. So as far as it being advertising for a job, we don't have to do that, just like any other regular job. But please double check that, because I only got one source on that.
So do we need a motion just to table that audit agreement and till we get the information from the electric department? Do we have a motion to that?
Who made that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Nicole did. Second. Okay, somebody seconds. All in favor? All right. Well, we're rolling a lot of things downhill. Let's see. The Valley 2 lease agreement.
Does Valley Tool want to renew this lease?
Yes, I talked with Casey probably a month ago before the elections, and I told him we'd have to see what happened in the elections, and this agreement has been expired, as y'all can tell, for quite some time. But he's continuing to make the monthly lease payments.
Sure, he didn't want to lose that spot.
And, would continue to do so. If y'all had a chance to look over that agreement.
Is it possible to have a real address or a layperson's description of a property?
I think legal documents have to be that way.
I can add it in there.
Add it. I refer to it.
Right, referred to as address such and such. Yeah, that's no problem.
This is the place behind Big Mac.
That's my understanding.
That's the metal building, yes.
So it's where they have their
Washing.
washing
Yeah.
operation. And it has a connection, a covered connection to the rest of the game facility, but it doesn't include that.
Right, but every once in a while they may store something in there.
Yeah, there's about 50,000 square feet of storage.
Yeah.
But it's all the same stuff, and it's all Borg Warners.
Some of it's probably Borg Warners.
It's all exactly the same tonnage.
Yeah,
It's just out
it
of
is.
circulation.
Yeah. But if you want to adopt it with the I'd say common language of a location,
Yes.
amending that.
It's just a pet peeve.
I mean, I think we could adopt that without Daniel just to
Oh,
amend
yeah.
it.
But
So,
who pays the electricity and water and all the utilities to that building?
some of these cases.
Yeah.
Because I know he had to, when he first rented it, he had to make some improvements,
Mhm.
and he made the expenses all on him.
So we don't pay,
And he
The
knows
utilities.
any improvements he
We're not on a
made.
regular big jack building, but we don't back that.
No. And he knows that any improvement he makes when he leaves.
belongs to the city.
belongs to the city.
That's what it says in here. $7,000 a month. Still paying.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
So we have a motion that we will accept this lease agreement.
How long of a term?
It is 5 years, not 5 years. Page 2. 2-term.
So reset the clock at the same 5-year term. starting
Yes.
now. I'll make that motion.
That gets me back. All right, we have a motion to accept this agreement with Valley 2. We have a second. Nicole seconds, all in favor. Okay. Another building lease agreement with Borg Warner. This is the building across the street from Borg Warner. It was the back part of old Bondaphone that burned many years ago.
They want to renew as well?
They do use that as storage still. Now, they will have to, after we agree it, they will have to send it to their headquarters. And, but they have continued to pay the lease, even though it's been expired.
Since 2013.
And,
So, I got a little,
there's-
Yeah, look at that first thing.
I think that first, was
Number 2,
one amount
term.
at first, and then,
Term of 1 year.
Can we add the address on this one too?
well, it comes up at the end, and then the picture was very helpful. Back there.
but since we're just renewing a lease, I think on page 2 under the rent, where they started at 1750, it would just be continued at 750. Is that right?
I didn't understand that. So the first year of their lease was $1,750, and then it was dropped to $750 for every
Right.
year after that.
And if I recall, they actually had that 1750 a little bit longer than that, too, just because they wanted to, I suppose. Not a whole lot, but just a little longer.
$750 a month, was it? Yeah, $750 a month.
It started at 1750.
Yeah, it started at 17. Reduced
It's
to-
confusing language, but.
Yeah,
It is.
an annual rental, but it's monthly, actually.
So the 1750 was monthly, but now it's down to 750.
Right.
We know how much they use those buildings?
I was just told they have a good bit of storage in there. Some of it may be outdated equipment. I'm really not sure what all they put in there.
Were you part of, you remember that?
No,
Why that changed to after 12 months?
I was not.
I can't remember what I did it.
But she said if the address comes into play later.
Pictures.
Just a picture and stuff.
Oh, I was just saying that to clarify for me.
Oh.
I just needed a layperson representation so I got what we were talking about.
I got you.
Usually that's because they had immediate need. So the first year was, and they could have found something cheaper given time. What is the square footage? It's
2,400. Or 24,000.
Yeah,
I was gonna say 2,400.
20,000.
20,400 square feet.
I wish I knew how much they use it. The 750 is less per square footage.
Oh, yeah.
Than Casey Washington is paying for that facility.
And Casey's is a revenue producing building versus a straight storage building, so.
I don't have strong feelings.
Again, if we would have to adopt it, they would have to send it to their headquarters to be approved again too. So, do we have a motion to adopt this lease agreement? Anyone? Senator makes the motion. We need a second. Kagan, all in favor? It's unanimous. Today we finally get to you. Yeah.
We just did. Well, thank y'all for having me again. I talked to Kagan earlier about, I'm really grateful to hear progress is being made a little bit on the dilapidated properties, and I guess I just wanted to follow up with that process and kind of see what the time frame was. I have one particular property that I'm more interested in than the others. It's near a development that I'm working on. I just kind of wanted to get some feedback and see time frame on that, if I could.
Vivian gave the list
I did,
to Billy Humphrey.
and I don't, think he's going to go with it.
What does that mean?
He's not going to go with it.
He's not, that's just, yeah.
So I need that a month ago.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Does that
Yeah,
mean
what is
he
it? He's not
doesn't
going
want to be
forward with
employed by the city to do this job anymore?
I think he's getting pretty close to that.
So
He
he
hasn't expressed
his
that.
decision.
He hasn't expressed
Because
that
that's part of the
totally.
job, so, I mean,
I would, if we
you
have
can't
a
pick and
city
choose which
employee
pieces of job you want to do.
who is not doing what we requested, and under statute, building inspector, this is one of his responsibilities, we need to advertise for that position and find somebody who will do the job.
Yes. With the right qualifications.
We need a job description. Mike volunteers. So we've effectively.
In the meantime,
If he can't do it, he can't do any of it.
let's go back first to, let's handle the immediate needs.
Okay.
We have.
So it's been 4 months, 5 months since we turned the board turned in their lists.
And so I think all other alternatives go back under what the state statutes say we can do, and that would be to address them through our legal, sending letters.
I sent, there's a PowerPoint that I sent to you that we all went to training on. I forwarded to you several.
It's-
Did you get it?
I had to go back and look. I'm sure I did.
So the process is a 30-day notice to correct or the city can remove. The question that I immediately come to is, the list was how many properties? It was
30 at least.
Yeah.
At least 30.
There, and then there was some
Well.
from Ward 4.
I don't know if that was the first phase or not, but I know the night I first came to the meeting, that I had 40. And then Cinnamon, I heard had 50. And then I heard a number recently of like 80.
That would have been the total of all
Yeah.
ours together.
So we got two different types, I say. Some are just violation of ordinances as far as grass, overgrown, trash, and some of them are true dilapidated structures.
I think in Ward 1 I had about a dozen that were missing wall, overgrown, near the street.
Those are the ones that we need to address.
But I'm confused, but we would have already been past our 30-day mark with all of these properties had it been done after we said it needed to be done.
And that information only came back to me this past week. I kind of asked him through Vivian to address these, and
So I'd like to know a couple things. If the process is to send a certified letter to the person on the deed for the property, and 30 days later, the city can tear it down. That's our legal right.
this,
How, it's crazy, but
yeah.
but that's what we were told. And the
Yeah,
citations are very thorough.
and I've read through some of those statutes, but I'm not the attorney. But,
So
of course,
my-
that would be applied back towards tax.
Right, so there's a couple questions. One, how much does it cost per letter per property to send those notices? Because we don't have to do anything within 30 days, but if we've gone through the motions,
Yes.
then we can act whenever we have funding to act. So, Daniel, to send a note like that, how much does that cost the city?
You're probably looking at, well, first of all, I've got to go to the tax assessor, find out who owns it, and then turn around and I'm thinking out loud, and then
Gotta find
We
them.
got to identify the exact properties we're talking about. I mean,
So-
we don't want to talk about somebody just
You're
as
probably
violating
right.
the ordinance. We don't want to talk about them right now.
No, we're not talking about cleaning houses.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
We're talking about
houses that are
dilapidated
dangerous.
properties. Those are the ones we need to address.
For example, a burned out house on Market Street that's been there for over 12 months.
Thank you, yes.
And that's changed hands twice, I think.
And my Bell Street property that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So,
So those are the ones.
an hour.
And that's in
an
our,
hour, so that 200
I think.
200?
No, it's in Hagen's Ward.
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of the street. Yeah.
So it would cost the city $200 per property to send those letters, and then we would essentially have the ability to tear them down if we have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And then you don't recoup that money until the next tax sale.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to prioritize, because I don't think we can't get the ball rolling on 60 or 80
You could be
properties.
$150,000 very easily. You know, we don't have that.
So if every person picked a couple from their ward to start the process,
I'd be happy to go and research something, to supplement Daniel's time.
I don't know if we're allowed.
Are we not allowed to do that?
I don't.
Well,
Public
think
record search?
The title search wouldn't be,
No.
A title search would be separate, yeah.
Well,
But
the-
to
these-
find addresses and things like that, like, some of them don't have numbers on the property, just say,
If I
oh,
may, Daniel, I know you're familiar with this piece of property I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
It's got multiple owners.
Yeah, that's your issue.
Will they all have to be notified?
yes,
Yes, by law.
yes.
Okay.
They'll be
Enforce it.
found, notified.
Right. Okay.
Enforce it.
Yeah.
or you write one letter, you photocopy it and put it in 8 envelopes.
Yeah.
You get to the point of you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Right, and that's when you have to search and find
You-
where they live and to
We
get
can-
that letter to their
We can send you
address.
the amount of research that you have to do is not on you. It's whatever address they provide, unless someone knows, unless they can prove you actively knew where they were and you didn't contact them, you just send to the last address on file. that
Yeah,
they
the last known
provided.
address. That's right.
For
So-
example, the person who's been paying the taxes for the last 10 years.
Yep.
Because obviously, somebody's paying the taxes. And in this case, I think it's only one of the many individuals that could claim an heirship to this piece of property.
Doesn't matter who's paying the taxes, if there's multiple names on there, every single person has to be contacted and they have to
But you
be an
would just
address.
send the letter to that person at the same address is what you are telling me.
Yeah, if you have one
Yeah.
address of record,
Okay.
that's the one that you would use.
Okay,
But
so you
all the
don't
names
necessarily
would
have to
go-
send it to all the potential heirs.
It's
Well,
not-
you just send
it's-
6 letters to one address.
Mhm.
It's not your responsibility
Okay,
to,
good.
Find
Good.
everyone.
yeah.
Okay.
So I would, if every ward, and I guess the at-large, pick 2, to send the letters, and we can decide, at least get quotes to take them down and see. But, and this is really something that we shouldn't be doing directly, our building inspector should be doing that.
Yeah.
But we'll address that issue.
That's next.
Yeah.
So we've got our our ordinance, which basically provides as a misdemeanor to allow it to remain such, but then you've got the statute, which provides that we have to allow them a hearing before we can use the hammer. We have to give their due process rights before we can turn around and basically seize their property by destroying or taking it away. So there will, after the initial letter, there will then have to be the hearing phase.
Right.
And so there's
And at that time, they can request an appeal, or an extension, I mean. They
right,
can, you know.
and an appeal.
And an appeal.
So I mean,
So it's not easy.
well, no, but for most of the properties, I think it will be.
Same process y'all went through in the county, basically.
Yeah, well, in the county now, it seemed like a very simple process in the county. We were able to move within 30 to 45 days
Okay.
from the time the petition was signed. We were able to go in and actually do some work.
The hearing,
Okay.
I'll send you that PowerPoint, it consolidated all this really nicely in some use cases. And the hearing can happen after the notification. And then all you have to do in that hearing is essentially hold a picture and say, this is dangerous to the public. If you clean it up before we get there.
Yeah, and that's what they did with the county.
Yeah.
Right, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
So-
In two of the cases that we had, once the ball dropped, the owner decided to go ahead and take action, and we didn't have to ultimately do anything. And I
Which
think
would be the best.
I think that's going to be the case in a lot of these. They
Yeah.
would rather do it themselves in a reasonable time period once they know the city's going to force their hand.
We had an example last year where absentee owner, and actually the lady didn't know she was the owner of the property. Someone had been handling everything for her, and she was notified, and within 2 weeks started getting it cleaned up. She just didn't know. That was over on West Bay Street.
Well, quick parting comment then. I would really like it if I was in line for the first test case for this, if Kagan would be so.
Number 2, please.
Okay, well.
Well, they're two different awards, right?
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that?
That's fine.
So we can get you both at the same time. How about
Yeah.
that?
And would you mind in the interim before the election picking 2 in lieu of the alderman?
Sure. Glad to.
Then we'll turn those in to Daniel, and the next step will be letters go out.
Yeah. And if y'all get y'all's names to him before, anybody else, you could go ahead and start with us.
Set these up for March.
Perfect. Final comment, this is a big deal, y'all. This is a big deal. If you drive around the town,
Oh,
you
yeah.
see them everywhere on literally every street. And once they're gone, you give it 6 months to a year, it's going to make a huge impression on the town.
Yeah,
It's a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Now, do we need to have a different board item to talk about?
That'd be personnel. The Tyler easement that Daniel had been working on,
Yes, sir.
y'all have a copy.
I thought it looked good. Have the Tylers looked at it, seen it?
I know.
They have not seen it. Okay, do we,
I'd make a motion that we deliver to them, and so it's a 20-foot. It's very
No,
clear
no,
to
yeah.
anybody who buys it. It minimizes the loss of value to their property.
we need to go ahead and adopt it, or just motion to send it to them?
So the motion to send it to them because there's 2 signatures that they have to sign.
I had
No,
envisioned
we would
y'all-
have to adopt it before we send it to them for signature even.
Right.
And I would get y'all signatures on it and say, here we go.
I'll make that motion to have that done.
To send it to them?
No, we
We
sign
adopt it?
and offer it to them.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion that we adopt it to send to them for their approval. Okay, Cinnamon and Kagan made the motion, Cinnamon second. All in favor, and everybody there.
That reminds me of something. I'm sorry from the top, but has Mr. Fox signed his new lease?
Well, he got paid.
He's been paid, or he received a payment.
Extended of the,
I looked that up, it doesn't work like that.
Can we withhold any future payments until he signs that new lease?
Let's go ahead and make that motion.
I make a motion that we we
suspend
forced the
payments.
issue of getting the new lease contract signed with Mr. Fox.
All right, we have a motion, second.
So what is it, we're gonna suspend payments until he signs a new contract? I'll
So
second.
we have Simmons,
Is it
second.
monthly or yearly?
All in favor?
The payments didn't look like full months.
Oh, everybody, as far as, how we pay him.
I'll track him down. I'll get a hold of him.
Okay, he's got a year advance.
We got $253
Okay.
because of payment against us, I guess.
Usually when is it tight?
Sorry. I had that written down somewhere for the doctor portion. And
Number 4, for $96,756.79. And of course, part of our grant, and that would be our payment.
so a lot of this was the actual pipes, like the actual materials.
Yeah, yeah.
At what point do we talk about?
When we, before we do approve the final payment, is when we make sure our engineers and we are satisfied with the job and any damages that we have incurred, city and one property owner that I know of. So, you know, that, the final say, y'all have to approve the final.
How much is the final usually?
Well, the total bill was
$468.
$468. Yeah.
I just,
I'd have to figure
Yeah.
without going too far into the weeds, just watching them break up concrete by dropping it onto our streets and as high as they can reach.
Yeah.
How about the one that popped a wheelie in front of me and nearly flipped it and went woohoo with one of them hanging off the side, like off the side? What do you think about that one? I thought it was OSHA violation personally. True story. I have witnesses.
Anyway, we have a motion, go ahead and pay this one, and like I said, we will withhold the final till we're satisfied.
I'll second.
All right, we got,
I'll make the motion.
Kagan
Because
made
this
the
is-
motion, I think Senator.
This is primarily the material they're putting in the ground. It's
Right.
not labor.
And, all in favor? And we'll do that again, like I said, our engineers will look at everything, and final inspections have to be done.
Is paving the street in their contract?
Yes, paving it, and I have to go back and look at that contract, but in my opinion, I think it was stated what came out goes back in that same, and I think some of it was concrete, so deep, because I'm just kind of worried about what they're packing with, and that's just me. I'm not an engineer.
I am too.
They were pulling out 8 inches of concrete going across to Martin Street.
Yes.
That's what I was watching them drop from a good 12 feet onto our newly paved.
Yeah, and so we're going to, like I said before, we pay the final, it has to meet the inspection of the engineers, and we had the input to our engineers, so was this done back the way before they tore it up? Which means maybe, it may be 8 inches of concrete with 4 inches of asphalt on top of that, I don't know. But we'll have to make sure.
How do we make sure?
We'll look at that
Go
contract.
back over.
We'll look at that contract. Oh, no, they'll have to, what they're doing right now is simply just getting it where you can drive over it. And it's settling, they're packing, and it's settling. That top layer of gravel they're putting in there will have to come back out, period. And then the paving on that. But, and Vivian can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think actually you could get a change order done on it.
Change
And,
orders
can be done even on these contracts, especially with our engineers.
They had to request it.
Yeah.
They request it, we don't.
Yeah, they request, no.
So there was almost $100,000 left in that grant. Do we still have access to that?
No. I wish. But
That may leave a little wiggle room for a change, for better approach
Yeah.
or something.
yeah, we'll go back and look at that contract, word for word, and if it does say it has to go back, exactly. Where they are saying, well, we didn't bid on concrete, well, you bid on putting it back, and so, yeah. And that could be a change order.
Willis recommended, they said that all the
They
bids
met
were
the
equal.
specs, yes.
Yep.
And, off the record, I've been kind of disappointed. I really have, the way that they have gone about, I think in some reckless fashion. But that's,
Yes.
I'm not an engineer, I'm not a contractor, but from just a citizen, not a mayor's position, but just a citizen, I've been kind of disappointed in that. But anyway, all right, we approved that. Nicole.
I just wanted to go back and revisit the planning commission seats, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. I know before we, in Ward 1, Casey was appointed. In Ward 2, we had Benny Joe Sales. And then the question was in Ward 3 with
Lynn Morris.
Right, with Lynn Morris.
And I did talk to Lynn, and she is willing to stay on if, if she's, if we want her to stay on.
Yes, we love for her to stay on.
Okay, and then your ward was like.
Right. And I wanted to submit a name for the planning commission, and that's Jerry Ann Davis.
Okay. Nicole is submitting Jerry Ann Davis to go on the planning commission from Ward 4. So do we have a second from that? Have a second? All in favor or any discussion prior?
Jerry Ann's willing to come to all those meetings?
She really is. And while we're on this, I think we need to look at that whole policy.
So we had asked our legal counsel to visit that because it still references Oxford.
It is.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah, I mean, I reviewed it and I haven't reworked it. No.
It is.
That is part of the plan, is to revise that whole planning commission agreement and then present it to y'all to be approved.
And I think that when we get everybody together, we all need to have a meeting together.
I think so. I think one thing, I don't know if I mentioned it to Daniel the other day when I was talking with him, with these terms, to me, if you appoint somebody from your ward, it should be tied to your term.
I agree.
I mean, not, I mean,
And the
that
term
thing
limits
was just
in there are
scratched through, yeah, I
and
mean.
it doesn't match, so I believe that the term should go with the alderman of an election.
So actually, right now, we're 6 months in, basically, to this term, so Jerry Ann would be appointed to finish out that term.
Correct.
And then if you want, you want to reappoint the same person, that's fine.
Right.
But let's get some definitions of what a term really is.
Yes.
And because,
When do you want to talk about that again, Daniel?
Next board meeting.
the next board meeting, they can have something.
Okay.
I mean, so really all I'm changing, other than Oxford to Water Valley, is the
The term limit.
the term limits.
Okay.
Is there anything else that y'all?
I would kind of,
There,
I'd like to have, rather than having the planning commission go through our city clerk, if, it's just a thought, but if our building inspector was the point of contact to know about, they should know what's going on or what's coming up, and be the person that gets the calls about, we'd like to be on the agenda for the planning commission. Have a little internal control.
So the building inspector would be the point of contact for basically helping them set up what their meetings are about. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but also they would be the point of contact for citizens who are applying, talking about what they might be doing.
And the building inspector would be a member of the planning commission.
They currently are, I believe.
I mean, by
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I
in
mean,
the bylaws.
yeah. So,
Already.
and then the appointed members.
So basically, the building inspector / secretary of the planning commission
Does something for the planning commission, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they have to elect their officers when they get all together. They've got to
Yeah.
do that
But
And-
as well. So.
I would think kind of his responsibility to look at any variances and bring that to the planning commission also, and how it fits the ordinance.
That person would be the best person to tell the citizen that's just not feasible, or that could be an exception coming to the planning commission.
I think that would take a lot of calls off of Vivian, because,
At least 2 a month.
don't you think?
It would probably
It would
help.
help you. Because I think the current way that it happens is they call you, then you call the building inspector, he goes out and looks at it, and he goes back to tell you, and you have to go back to call that person. So let's.
Or
just
get a meeting.
Uh-huh. So that's the way it's going right now. I think that we could help Vivian out a lot by cutting out that middleman. You don't need to be part of that unless you want to.
So I've got 3 changes to make.
It doesn't matter.
Terms.
I'll get calls anyway, so.
Oh, I make a motion that
At least you can
Daniel
redirect.
write up those 3 changes and have it ready for it.
For a new policy for the planning commission. Okay, we have a motion. Gentlemen, seconds. All in favor? That's all. Okay, that looks like that ends our regular, and I think we have a matter for executive session that will deal with personnel.